The following material may not be suitable for all listeners. Listener discretion is advised.
Yeah, see? Want to join the program? Broadcasting live from the cultural void of Independence, Ohio. Phone number 578-1100 in the classic 216 area code. Toll-free 888-723-WTAM. 38 states and half of Canada, anywhere within the sound of my voice. And the big voice man will tell you who I am and who we are right about now.
The Rick Gilmour Show on News Radio WTAM 1100.
That is I. Well, that's interesting. I was talking yesterday about Kobe Bryant. I'm just going to make it open phones. However, I will lead you down a few paths here. That's interesting that a couple months ago, I guess, apparently, the blonde chick, as she's known, OD'd on pills. The blonde chick that, worked at the resort that just sort of found her way to Kobe's room. Now, I was thinking about this, and I was thinking, can you imagine? I mean, if I left here and went to a bar, and I bumped into a nice-looking blonde chick. Now, it's different because I'm not married. But if I bumped into a nice blonde chick, and she said, I listen to you all the time, Rick. I think you're just the greatest. And I said, hey, baby, want to come back to my house? A couple of drinks, Some cabassier and sauerkraut, Want to come over? Well, what do you think she'd figure was going to happen? Did she think we were going to sit around and hold hands and sing Kumbaya? Probably not. Yeah, a little cabassier and sauerkraut, yeah. So you have to wonder about the moral fiber of a woman that obviously admires an athletic young man. Of course, you also have to wonder about the moral fiber of a married man who just cheating on his wife.
I'm innocent. I didn't force her to do anything against her will. I'm innocent.
Well, you're innocent of perhaps, and that will play out in the courts, whether you forced her to do anything against her will. Didn't he have about 3 bodyguards with him? No, I mean, unless the 3 bodyguards had their way with her, too. There's 4 against 1 that are going to say she came up to the room and whatever they did behind closed doors. And you put yourself in a precarious situation, the most precarious situation that I feel that he's in. And I don't know whether it matters whether this girl OD'd on pills or not, but maybe it does. Maybe that puts her in a frame of mind. I mean, if anyone, because generally women do that for attention. Right? I mean, if a guy says he's going to kill himself, you better be careful because they might just do it. If a woman says I'm going to go home and kill myself, they don't normally shoot themselves or, they'll sort of slit their wrists not very good and then bleed some and then call the authorities. Or they'll take enough pills and then call and leave somebody a message that they'll get it before they actually fall asleep and God gives them a big warm hug and never lets go. So I don't know what kind of frame of mind this woman's in. Maybe she's a nut. Maybe she's cuckoo. Why did she take pills? Maybe her financial situation is horrible. Well, what a better way to try and fix your financial situation than blackmail an NBA player, right? I mean, maybe even if he's found not guilty in a court of law, she could sue him civilly, right? Look what happened to O.J. Found not guilty in a court of law, found financially responsible for 2 deaths in civil court. So maybe it's a lose-win for her. But if there's a win-win or a lose-win, what would she care? If she sued him civilly and won, well, then she'd have a bunch of money. And that's what I always got to keep considering over and over is this guy's worth a lot of money. And he's 24. He's only been married a few years. Just had a baby in January. You'd think about that, wouldn't he? Although a friend of mine said to me, after about 7 years, most men start to roam. Is that true? Call up and tell me that. Is that the truth? Do men start to roam after about 7 years? Are men more prone to roam than women? I mean, I know how Kobe's I don't think so, but I know how Kobe's wife felt because my wife cheated on me, and I knew it before she knew I knew it. And I just sort of played dumb. And it was awful. You know how hard that was to play dumb and not say anything and sleep in the same bed? That was pretty tough, but I did it. I played dumb. But I knew what the outcome was going to be. I called the attorney. If I were Kobe's wife, what's keeping her around? The love? The baby? Money? But she'd get money anyway, wouldn't she? If she divorces him. And look at this. He's already admitted to being a bad boy.
Furious at myself. Disgusted at myself for making a mistake of adultery.
Yeah.
And I love my wife with all my heart. She's my backbone.
She's my rock.
You're a blessing. You're the beats in my heart. You're the air I breathe. And you're the strongest person I know.
My wife is my rock.
Recognize that voice? Yeah. So it'll play out in the courts. I'm curious what you think. If women are more prone to cheating than men, would you stay? If your wife cheated on you or your husband cheated on you, could you stay? Could you forgive? Could you find it in your heart to forgive? I mean, you got to wake up next to this person every day and think, somebody else was doing what I'm supposed to be doing in there.
Hello?
And you'd think, well, if they do it once, would they do it again? I mean, chances are, once a cheater, always a cheater is what they say. I don't think, well, I didn't, and I don't think I could forgive. I mean, I guess it depends on obviously, if one person cheats in a relationship, they're probably not as committed to the relationship as the other person now, are they? And there's probably a lot of that going around, isn't there? Because last figure I saw, 57.7% of all marriages end in divorce. So it sounds to me like most people, and we don't know why, I could not find numbers as to why 57.7% of marriages end in divorce. I couldn't find whether it was sexual peccadillos and indiscretions and cheating. Well, money's a big issue usually. People argue about money. If you're divorced, call and tell me why you got divorced. I'm curious. Because I think divorce is in Kobe's future. Because if he did it once, do you think that was the first and only time he ever did it? Oh, come on. These guys travel a lot, don't they? Was it Wilt Chamberlain said he had sex with over 20,000 women? You'd think his pen would be out of ink by now. That's a lot. Oh, Kobe.
I sit here before you guys, embarrassed and ashamed for committing adultery. And, you know, if I could, you go through the feeling of if I could just turn back the hands of time.
If I could turn.
And I love my wife so much. She's so special to me.
I know we're high.
That's not what I wanted to play.
You're just hurting yourself with this rambunctious behavior.
That's what I wanted to play. We'll edit that part out of the tape and nobody will know the difference. Chris, you're on the air.
Yeah, Rick, that little tape you played with Jim Tomey when he says, my wife is my rock. And I always think, yeah, the one that hit you upside the head and made you change your mind about leaving Cleveland. So,
but did you know that Jim Tomey has a sister that looks just like him, but with a like him in a wig?
Oh man, I don't want to talk about that.
Can you imagine that? Now that'd be a sight. Be like when Herman Munster dressed up like a woman. Remember? Yeah.
Well, Rick, on the topic tonight, one I want to just my condolences about your own marriage. Sorry about hearing that.
Well, if it's going to go south, you may as well have it quick and dirty and over with and that kind of thing. You know what I mean? No kids involved, and I kept everything. And so, as far as the other part, obviously, you have to take you a while to get over it, but you get over it.
Well, and, I just talked to an old friend on the phone the other night. We're going to have our 25th high school reunion, and she's telling me of all the people that are divorced. And I'm like, I'm not sure I want to go and hear all these stories. And let's see, did you have your 25th or 20th and that kind of thing happen where everybody's life's kind of a tragedy?
Well, what was interesting was when I went to the 20-year reunion, I was with my fiance, and my best man that was going to be at the wedding was there with his wife, who they're now getting divorced. And I was yet to be married and then divorced. And so life was going along pretty well right back then. And we ended up mostly hanging around with 6 or 8 people that we really liked from high school that I remembered that we all liked each other back then and hadn't seen each other. So we didn't talk doom and gloom. We actually sort of went away from the hall where it was at a hotel, and we kind of went down the hall to the bar and just sat around in there. And so we didn't commiserate about bad things. We pretty much celebrated life. But my 25th is coming up, and now think about it conversely. Now, I'm not married. Now, maybe I'll meet somebody that I liked in high school, and maybe they're divorced too, and maybe I think that's a good idea. I think if I'm ever going to get remarried, a friend of mine said to me, maybe you ought to marry somebody that's been divorced, and they know how lousy it is to go through a divorce, so you two, if you do get married, you'll both have a pretty good idea that you don't want to put each other through that.
Well, I think that's why people go to these high school reunions in the later years, like the 25th is, just like what you said, so you might find somebody there, at least you know from high school. So. Oh
God, you're making me feel old in our later in our later years. Yeah.
Well, listen, the thing with Kobe, I mean, it's funny the way he was arrested first, and then there was a lot of silence, and it seemed like the sheriff's department bungled it. But obviously, there must have been fire where there was smoke, and. He had this indiscretion, and, who's to know? I mean, it's going to come out in the trial, but, you got to keep it in your pants if you want to, keep the money and the status and all that. And like you said, you talked about Will Chamberlain, who said he'd been with 20,000 women, and, so maybe they thinking that as a model is that's what they can get away with, too.
Yeah, maybe he wants to be, maybe this will give him more street cred, and he'll be more like Allen Iverson or something.
Oh, brother.
I would think, because that's another issue. His squeaky clean image, I would think that there'd be some sort of clauses in, say, his Nike contract, where they'd say, there's manic digressions, and you start going off and doing things that are not squeaky clean. We have the option to dump your ass and keep our money.
Well, exactly, and there are clauses in those contracts to that effect, and that's what he mentioned in the news conference. That this isn't about endorsements. He was talking about his personal life, but he should have thought about his wife before he got in that position. Anyway, so.
Well, thanks for the call.
Thank you.
Yeah, he really should have thought about that, because here's the one big thing: if he truly loves his wife. Well, when he's not on the road and he's not traveling around and he doesn't want to give away, if he does not want to give away half his house and half his money and child support for a baby that's only, since January, this has got almost 18 years there, plus college, and I don't suppose he's financially bound to send his children to college, but one would think if he were a good father, he'd be thinking about that. He'd be thinking about his wife. He'd be thinking about, obviously, he did not think he would get caught. That's why I don't figure this was the first and only time. Mark, you're on the air.
Hey, Gilly, how's it going?
Great.
I've been divorced twice. The first time, I'll take 51% of the blame. I was a bad person. I cheated.
Okay.
But we were married about 9 years. In the last 2 years, there was no intimacy. Let's just put that. We're on the radio. He said,
you're breaking up, Tiger. No, you're still breaking up. Tell you what, I'll put you on hold and try back. Maybe you'll be in a better cell. Bob, talk to me.
Hey, Rick.
Hey.
Long time no talk to you.
Yeah, how you doing, Bob?
Okay. Hey, listen, talking about divorce.
Yeah.
Hey, one thing I don't want to get divorced from is Tremont area. And I'm going to tell you why. Because I had a real great day today because at the streets of Tremont, and they had that festival over there?
Yeah, I saw it when I was going to work.
It was great. They had the Sokolowskis over there, and the Treehouse, and Edison's, and all the art studios. And
Did they have free beer?
no free beer,
Oh, okay.
but they had the best of the best, my friend.
Yep, I was
And
gonna.
it was great. Honest to God, goodness.
I would have stopped over there. I was out and about all day, and then I stopped home and take care of the dog, take the dog out for a walk, and I thought I'd walk the dog over there, but I thought, well, there's probably other people with their dogs, and my dog doesn't get along with other dogs, and so I just went home and came to work, and maybe next.
I'll tell you, the people over here, they were great. We had a good time. It was fantastic, and I hope other callers call in because there was hundreds and hundreds of people there. And it was really fantastic. It was really nice, and I really enjoyed it. And, I'm from the neighborhood. You know what I'm talking about.
Right, and you know what I thought was interesting? I wonder if that's why they moved the Puerto Rican parade, the celebration, downtown, because of the big to-do in Tremont, because normally they march right down by 14th and Clark, the Puerto Rican parade. So maybe they just figured there'd be too many people in one area, because I know I heard in Cliff's News someone was disgruntled. They liked the party, but they didn't like the change in venue.
Well, I don't know anything about that, but all I can tell you is this, that all nationalities were welcome there, and it was a fantastic time, and I met councilmen, and everybody was just great. It was just a fantastic time.
Was Matt Zone there?
I met him.
Yeah, I would have blown smoke in his face.
No, it was great, and I hope other callers call in.
All right, Bob.
Okay, you take care, buddy.
All right, you too. Matt Zone was there. I should have gone, just to size him up. Take a look at Matt Zone, the guy that wants to get rid of smoking. Why, I had my smokers' rights rally a few weeks ago, trying to get rid of smoking in bars and restaurants in the city of Cleveland, and that's just nonsense. Triple Doppler forecast, and this is not nonsense, from meteorologist Betsy King. Tonight, some thunderstorms possible. Keep you apprised. I'm looking up on Triple Doppler radar up there. Looks like some storms between Kalamazoo and Fort Wayne, that sort of area, and then some storms way up above Detroit. I think those will probably miss us unless they're heading south. But I'll keep you on top of what's going on right here. Cleveland's official weather station. That's us, your primary one. These storms pop up. Somebody's got to tell you about it. Well, you're in the right place, Tiger. Low in the mid-60s. Tomorrow, more of the same weather, upper 70s. Currently 76 degrees in Cleveland, 76. If you're on the lake, I'd suggest you get off. Waves are 2 to 5 feet. Although the water temperature is nice, 74, but I don't think I'd want to be falling in. Yeah, who do you believe? That's our cyber vote at WTAM.com. Kobe or the blonde chick? 52% of you responding say the chick. Well, I don't know. I think this is just my opinion. I think she's a little nutty. If she tried to kill herself, she's probably not all there, taking pills until she rattles. I don't know. Was she under the influence of any pills? Did they check on that? Well, they're checking for the DNA to see if she had sex with Kobe. Did they check to see if she had any narcotics in her system? That's something worth considering, isn't it? I mean, is this woman a nut? Is she a gold digger? An opportunist trying to milk money? No, obviously, Kobe's only defense could have been to say, yes, he had sex with her, because they can prove that, but that it was consensual. And I suppose, yeah, if you're an opportunist and a gold digger and a money grubber, just having sex with Kobe was a fleeting moment of orgasmic delight. And then after that, you say, well, that's over with. That'll probably never happen again. What can I do next? So put my vote down in the Kobe category. How about that? I'll be on his side. Because I think it was probably consensual. And no, that's not a pat on the back just because I vote his way. I think what he did was wrong. He's cheating on his wife. That's wrong. She deserves to file papers on him. She has every reason in the world, and then she sits there and rubs his hand. And she's so supportive. Larry, you're on the air.
Hey, Rick, what's up, buddy?
Well, just considering the case of Kobe.
Hey, I caught your show Saturday morning. It was pretty good, man.
It was flawless.
Yeah, I knew you were going to be talking. I heard you say, Kobe, Kobe, Kobe.
Kobe, Kobe, Kobe.
You know, I'll tell you what, man. I was with my buddy John today. I was sitting on his porch in Garfield Heights. And, man, there's a lot of women on his street. I'd love to give them my DNA.
Well, it's something to consider. You're a free man.
But, I've been around a lot of guys that, like my buddy John. Man, this dude is faithful to his wife. He was married once before, had a band, but I mean, he's been there. He's seen what it does, man. I mean, and I see that. And most of my friends, they're pretty true blue to their wives and friends. Wives and that. And I got friends in relationships. They're pretty honest.
I had a fiance years ago that I never got married to because she was cheating on me. And you know what her reasoning was?
What?
Well, you were cheating on me first. I said, where did you ever get that idea? Can you imagine? And I'd never, ever cheated on her, ever. Never even thought about cheating on her. And she said, well, you did it first. And I'm thinking, well, just because what? I mean, she tried to, when we were together, she tried to cut my hair funny, and she tried to fatten me up. She tried to dress me badly. You know, she wanted to make me so I got me a man that no one else would want. And I refused to get my hair cut funny, and I refused to gain weight, and I refused to wear the silly clothes that she thought I should wear, and I did my own thing. And I guess she figured that since I dressed like that and acted like that and looked like that apparently I was still out looking for someone. Well, so she proved it. What she did was she just up and ruined it and proved it.
And look what happened, and like your marriage, I feel sorry for you, man,
Oh, don't feel sorry for me. I expect no pity from anyone because I was dumb enough to get married.
Oh, it's whatever, to each his own, you know what I mean? I mean, if you there's a reason everybody gets married, meets this girl, and this thing, you fall in love and you want to be happy and stuff like that. That's, I guess that's normal.
I guess. I would assume that, like I said, almost 60% of marriages end in divorce. I'm certainly not alone, but, well, I tell you, I'm getting up on the news and all that, so...
I'm going to let you go and you have a good one.
I already do. Yeah, I expect no pity from anyone, believe me. I'm the one that got married. Duh. Looking back on it, duh. I got engaged, and then she set a date. She wanted to rush this right along. I was kind of happy with just being engaged. Women don't want to just be engaged, right? They want to be married, and then, that got into a whole other issue. I don't want any kids, and then all of a sudden, and she didn't want any either, and then all of a sudden she decided she did want some. And I said, well, I'm fine with that. You're fine with that? I guess I was supposed to jump up and down and, say, let's go make a baby. Babies are a big responsibility, and I did not decide at 40 years old that I wanted to start, I want to be,
yeah, come on, Sonny, let's go out and throw around the football. Be like Larry King with little babies.
I'm Rick Gilmour, the divorced man's friend. More of the program after these important words and coverage of what in the world's happening on Cleveland's only news radio, WTAM.
On News Radio, WTAM 1100.
Oh, Kobe.
Gonads are useful for their purpose, but they are no substitute for brains.
Amen and hallelujah, Paul Harvey. Yeah, you're weighing in on the issue here. I think Kobe's got divorce in his future. I think that's just the way it looks. Well, you think that was the first and only time he ever cheated? Come on. It's the first and only time he ever got caught. Bill, you're on the air.
Billy, how you doing?
All right.
I just had a couple quick things about Kobe. One, it's kind of the accepted way in the NBA now to, have girlfriends on the side, and, his wife went from basically marrying a guy that's worth, what's, Kobe worth, $100 million. So, she's just going to look the other way on his indiscretions. I mean, what woman is going to go out and find another man that can make that kind of money? She was holding his hand at the press conference.
I couldn't believe that. I mean,
you know what my wife would do to me? She wouldn't be holding my hand.
No, she'd be hitting you over the head with a frying pan.
With an axe.
Yeah.
But my point is that these guys come from the street ball and the streets, and this whole accepted thug life of the NBA is. Look at these guys. They're all just have women thrown at them from city to city to city to city. They're making, even Sean Kemp made $72 million, but he didn't have women thrown at him. He had drugs thrown at him. But my point is, these guys make so much money. They're so out of control. There's so much temptation out there that they just, every woman's just going to look the other way. I mean, if you really went through the NBA and took a survey of all these guys, I'm sure you would find out that a lot of these guys that are married, stray.
You know what it is? Maybe because I have to consider sports figures are entertainers.
Yes, they are.
And look at entertainers. I mean, was Frank Sinatra faithful? You know,
right.
I mean,
Right.
Look back at movie stars and look at them now. I mean,
Sylvester Stallone faithful? No, he got caught. All those guys get caught. Bruce Willis, all them guys.
So what is it? Is it the money?
It's the money. I mean, years ago, you could go buy tires and see, Len Barker selling you tires because these guys had to work in the off season. They weren't superstars. But now these guys are making, $10 million a year, or they got endorsements. LeBron signed a $100 million shoe contract.
So maybe if you've got all this money, you've got nothing left to. There's no more conquests left except for other women.
Right, and if you have the money, I mean, this has always been that way in life. You have the money, you got the power. People are going to be drawn to you. Gilly, if you had $100 million, Carmen Electra be, throwing herself at you. You know what I'm saying?
That's interesting because I've said that it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when I win the lottery.
Right.
And I thought, you think I'd tell anybody that?
No, just quit and start driving around in a limo to whatever bar you want to go to.
Yeah, because, I mean, you start telling it, there would be more people that I just sort of like met once, don't even really kind of know, and
they'd be hanging all over you.
They'd be out of the woodwork.
But that's my point on today's athletes, is that even 15 years ago, 10 years ago, these guys weren't making this kind of money, and things have just spiraled out of control. And if this woman did do it consensually, who knows? Maybe like you're saying, she was after the money, she wasn't. Maybe she thought she'd be Kobe's new wife. Who knows? But don't tell me that the money. Don't tell me Kobe looks like a supermodel, because he doesn't. He's got the money, and that's what she was aiming for, right or wrong. He's got money, power, and, money buys a lot of things. So.
All right, Bill.
All right, have a good one there, Gilly.
Yeah, I already do. Yeah, money corrupts. See, I always thought it wasn't the love of money is the root of all evil. I thought it was the lack of money is the root of all evil. That's why people sell drugs. And there aren't people in the inner city selling drugs because that's their chosen profession. Perhaps they never got an education. Perhaps that was their own choice. Who knows? If you don't go to school, it's tough to get an education, and then conversely, it's difficult to get a job. So you get a job selling drugs, right? Well, I mean, it wasn't like you chose that. Maybe it is just too much money. Maybe money and power corrupts. All I want's $1 million. I don't need 20 or 40 or 100. What would you do with $100 million? Yeah, I know you could think of something. I'd think of something, too. Even if you had $1 million, you could probably make 60, 70 grand a year in interest, even if you just invested. What you need to do is cheat on the stock market like the other people that are already rich do. Then find out insider trading and all that sort of thing. And then you could make tons more money. Or get caught and go to jail. Well, it's your choice. It's your gamble. Mark, you're on the air.
Hey, Gil, is this any better? I was breaking up before.
Much better.
Okay, I've been divorced twice. The first time I take 51% responsibility. I was married about 9 years. Last 2 years we started fighting about the usual things, lack of money, all the things you fight about. And for 2 years she says, you want the intimacy in the bedroom? Go find yourself a hooker. Well, after about 2 years I broke down with a friend, so I take 51% of the blame.
I'd only take 50 if I were you.
Well,
I mean, if she said that.
Well, I do, but I'll take 51 because I could have waited until I got divorced.
Okay, all right, I'll give you that. All right.
And the second time, my second ex, she did have an affair on me because I was here again too, money, child support, working a lot, the whole deal. And when I understood where she could be coming from because of I was so busy, had to work, everything to make two family type of things, child support and my existing family. So we tried to work through it, but then she found she wanted to go find herself a bad boy, somebody that she could walk 1 foot inside the law, 1 foot outside the law. So she divorced me. Now it's been about 8 years, and or 6 years now, and just doing my own thing. Whatever happens, happens.
All right. So you would get married again?
If the right person was there and presented himself, yeah. I'm not pushing it. I'm not denying it.
Okay, because I know a guy that's been going with the same girl for probably 15 years, and I don't hear any talk of getting married.
Well, sometimes, with the right two people, you don't have to be married to be married. If you have the still commitment, it's a commitment, that communication, that wanting to be with that same person because you can't be without that person. That person makes you whole. It doesn't take a marriage certificate to do that.
All right. Well, you make a good point there.
Oh, thank you.
All right, yeah. Well, I thought about that. I mean, in my particular case, we got along a lot better before we got married. Why was that? Is it the shock of, geez, now you're married? I don't know. It didn't shock me much. It's a piece of paper. You have a big wedding, and, now you're married. All right, so big deal. Then again, this coming from the same woman that lived with me for 6 months before she would put anything in the closet. I said, well, why don't you put stuff in the closet? I guess it was a mental thing. If you got stuff in the closet, that means you're going to stay, and in case something goes sour, you can't get out in a hurry by just grabbing your stuff. So maybe marriage was more like, uh-oh, now all my stuff's in the closet. That kind of thing. Maybe it was the fact that the house we bought didn't have any closets. They build old houses without closets because they used to have a closet tax. It was how many people lived in the house was how many coat hooks there were in the closet. So they built them old houses without, it has nothing to do with it. But thinking back on what happened in my particular case, perhaps that living together for 6 months before you put anything in the closet, I had to say, hey, honey, why don't you try putting stuff in the closet so we don't trip over it? To me, it was a matter of tidy up the house a bit here. And, of course, looking back on it, I did all the tidying anyway. I did all the cooking and the cleaning and the grocery shopping and the laundry. And, well, she might have done laundry 3 or 4 or 5, 10 times. I don't know. I told her, I said, all you got to do is do what I don't want to do. You got to clean the sink in the bathroom. You got to get out them scrubbing bubbles or whatever. You got to get in there like a little chipmunk with some Bon-Ami, clean up the toilet. And you got to get in there and paddle around and, clean up that tub. That's all I ask. Do the toilet and the sink and the tub. I don't like cleaning bathrooms. Well, it turned out I didn't even get that. If I told you what was left in the toilet when she left, it would just disgust you, and it was not a bodily function. It was something thrown in there, and it was just disgusting. Well, anyway, it's none of your business, I guess. At least not on the radio. I'll tell you over a cold beer sometime if I bump into you. But you'll say, oh, my God, what was she thinking? It's not what people are thinking, it's what people are not thinking. That's the biggest problem in this world, is that people just don't think. Jamie, you're on the air.
Hey, what's up, my man?
Hey.
I just wanted to say that, first of all, that Bon-Ami, that's a great product.
Oh, well.
I use that myself.
Any kind of cleanser, I guess. Just get in there like a little squirrel.
Exactly. But the whole Kobe thing, man, you think about it, he's 25 years old.
24.
24, he's loaded. Yep. I mean, I can only imagine. I'm 23 right now. I can only imagine what I would be doing if I was 24 and had that amount of money. And, I'm to the point where I think that, people, guys in general, should not get married until they're at least 55, because my dad just got off his 4th divorce.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
He's probably
got remarried.
Is he broke? Is he broke?
He's getting by, I think. He's doing all right, but it got close there for a while. But he finally just got remarried about a year ago, so I think he's finally settled down, and I don't know, man. I just think it's a whole maturity thing. I think women cheat just as much as men, but they're very much, they're more intuitive when it comes to figuring it out than we are. I don't think we can. You're very smart for catching on to yours, but I think a lot of guys don't catch on when their girl's cheating on them.
No, I'm not going to give myself that much credit. I bumped into a cop buddy of mine who said, quote, Rick, would you like to know what your wife is doing while you're at work?
Oh, no.
Now, what are you supposed to say? You're supposed to say no and catch her yourself, or you're supposed to say, well, gee, not really, but now I have to know.
Exactly.
And that's how I played dumb, because she didn't know I knew, and it's a long story, but
yeah.
I mean, everybody's got one. It's just, everybody I know has been divorced, it seems like.
Yeah, you're right. And when I look at my dad, I'm like, I don't even know if I even want to test the waters,
Almost everyone I know, I think back on it, and I think, geez, there's just tons and tons of people that I feel sorry for people that are married 15, 20 years.
Yes, you're right. Hey, yeah. Oh, man.
I mean, you think you've got your life set. You think you've got everything pretty well figured out. You think if there's problems that come along, you can work through them after that amount of time.
Right, but people can't.
I talked to a guy who was married over, I think it was about 25 years, And he said once the last kid was finally out of the house, the wife said, okay, that's it.
Exactly, and I think that's a huge mistake to stay together for the kids. That just screws up more lives than it would if you just made a clean split and explained it.
Well, I mean, I asked him straight up. I said, did you see it coming? He said, Rick, never in a million years. We weren't even arguing. We weren't fighting. Everything was going along fine down in the workshop and all that. He says it was just after 25 years. She said, that's it. I'm done. I stayed for the kids. I never told you that, and now I want a divorce.
See that? Women are trouble. They know everything, my man, and we know nothing.
Apparently. All right.
All right, my man. Have a good night.
All right, you too. Yeah, it's amazing how dumb guys can be. I mean, it truly is. It's amazing how I guess maybe it goes both ways. Kobe got caught. Otherwise, he would have been sneaking around, slip-sliding around. No one would have ever caught him, right? If this woman had not come forward, no one would have said a word, and life would have gone on, and we wouldn't even be talking about him. Your triple Doppler forecast from TV3 meteorologist Betsy Kling tonight. Showers, thunderstorms, mid-60s. Tomorrow, more of the same weather, upper 70s. Let's look ahead farther, shall we? Sure. Tuesday, more storms are possible, mid-70s. Currently 76 degrees in Cleveland, 76. Well. Kobe. Listen to Glenn Beck every weekday morning, would you, starting at 9? When you hear that first call on the air, you can win a 4-pack of tickets to the Browns-Bills preview scrimmage on Saturday, August 2nd. Glenn Beck programs weekdays at 9 here on News Radio, WTAM 1100. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, the thing is that this happens all the time. Had I not been clued in about what was happening in my relationship, I guess I never would have known, right? Could have gone on behind my back for how long? I think eventually you would kind of figure out maybe something's going on. See, if you had an inkling that something was going on, I like to think that if I end a fine radio career in the fashion I desire, that I would like to become a private detective, work for an insurance company or something, and poke around and nose around. So I would like to think that, and I've done it for friends. I had a friend of mine say to me once, I think my wife's cheating on me, Rick. Can you nose around and try and find out what's going on? And I found out that she was just going out with her friends after work to a bar. She wasn't fooling around. He divorced her. I said, why'd you divorce her? Well, she was an alcoholic. I said, well, you'd think maybe you could try and work through that. Now, if she's an alcoholic slut who's sleeping around with guys that she meets at bars, now that's something different. If she's just an alkie, I mean, get her into AA or something. Get her on antabuse. Take away her booze and drink it yourself. Your wife doesn't need to be drinking all your good booze, does she? That's what men drink, the booze. Gina.
Hi, Gilly.
Howdy.
How you doing?
Great.
I just want to say, my husband and I, we've been married 21 years now. We went together for 4 months, and we do everything together. We're like best friends, and everything is cut down the middle, 50-50 between us.
Now, run this by. Now, you were together for 4 months before you got married?
Yes.
That was it?
That's it. We've been married 21 years.
Wow, that's a pretty good track record.
And we don't fight, nothing. Like I said, everything is 50-50 with us.
How old were you when you got married?
I was 29, he was 36.
Had either of you been married before?
This is his second marriage.
Okay, because I think, and I'd like to hear from people out there that are divorced. I'm curious. I think that my theory that was told by a friend of mine that said, Rick, the idea if you get married again, you should marry someone else who's been divorced. I'd like to hear from a woman if they agree with that you would treat someone better if you thought you don't want to go through that process again.
Well, he treats me like a queen, and I treat him like a king.
Well, God bless you.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. 21 years. Yeah, I'm curious. 578-1100 in the 216 area code. Is that theory a good theory? I suppose if you've been married 4 times, I don't think I'd go through that more than a couple of times. I mean, once was bad enough. And you go through it a second time? Now you're going to do it again? What are you, Larry King? What are you, Elizabeth Taylor? Elizabeth Taylor, now there was a whack job. She married Richard Burton, they got divorced, and she married him again. Can you? I'll run that one by you, sweet cheeks. Would you marry the same guy you were married to before, or would you marry the same woman that you were married to before? Would you marry them again? Not in my circumstance, I wouldn't, because I firmly believe that if there's no trust, there's no relationship. Once a cheater, always a cheater, and the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So I should have known better going in, if you know what I mean, and I think you do. But to go through these things over and over and over again, and just consider what would happen, my attorney told me. He says, I got bad news for you, Rick. If she's sleeping with some other dude, and you two, even though you're separated, even if you're legally separated, if you're not divorced and she gets preggers, guess whose name goes on the birth certificate as the father? Yours. I said, you got to be kidding me. He said, no, because you're married. I said, is that so? And he said, and you better change the locks on the house. And I said, why is that? And he said, because you're married. I said, yeah, but she's not living here. This was before I got divorced. I said, but we're separated. She's not. He says, Rick, she's got every right to come to your house, throw a brick through the window, reach in and open the door, and come in and take anything she wants because you're married. You call the cops, and the cops are going to say, she's allowed to break in her house. That's her house, too. No, my name's on the deed, not hers and mine. It doesn't matter. She lives there. You're married. You got to get divorced. Do you understand this? I said, yeah, I know that. Well, let's speed the process up here. So the problem was I gave her all the paperwork and said, here, sign this for a disillusionment. It took her about 4 months to sign it. Why? Why the hell would it take 4 months? You're moving with some other dude and you're not sleeping with your husband and you're not living with your husband. You sign the papers and move on. Some people are they just don't get it. Some people are they're dummies. Bill, you're on the air.
Rick.
Yes.
How come you're always talking about your wife?
I'm not talking about my wife. I'm talking about Kobe Bryant. But I can feel for Kobe's wife because I've been in that situation a couple times. That's how it ties in. It's not just my wife or my ex-wife. It's your ex-wife, too. What did your... Fill up the lines and tell me about your wacko ex-wife. See, that's the thing. All I have to do is mention divorce, and I got 60% of the audience right there. Right? 60% of you have been divorced. I got lucky. Wait till the kids are grown. Hey, Barry, you're on the air.
Hey, regarding wait till the kids are grown?
Yeah.
I was listening to Paul Harvey. He was talking about this couple in front of the judge. The old man was 92, and the old lady was 90. And they were getting divorced after 71 years, and the judge is freaking out. He says, well, why now? Why bother? And the old lady said, we just wanted to wait till all the kids were dead.
Yep. Thanks, Terry. Yeah, that's an old one. I was going to jump in and ruin it for him, but I thought I'd let him finish it there. Well, you tell me, what did your wacko ex-wife do? I think if Kobe Bryant's wife had half a brain, she wouldn't be holding his hand. She'd be holding a meat cleaver in one hand and a phone in the other, and she'd be on the phone to the mouthpiece, to the esquire, to the lawyer, to the attorney. And he's got $100 million. I'd say, give me 50 of it. I'm moving on. I think money'd fix most of my problems. It'd sure fix most of hers. She's hot. She's a hot-looking chick. I think she can get somebody else. I'm Rick Gilmour, the lascivious man's friend. More of the program after these important words and coverage of what in the world is happening on Cleveland's only news radio. Husband or wacko ex-wife. Yeah, they are something else. That's funny, too, because just when you think you know someone, and maybe Kobe's wife knew that going in. I don't know. Maybe she knew that, he had wandering ways. I find it hard to believe that she'd think that was the first and only time and then sit there and hold his hand. Who knows? Maybe they have some kind of an open relationship or something. Maybe she knows he cheats and he knows that she's fooling around, too, and they don't care. I don't know. Some people have that thing going on. I know people that have orgies at their house. They have little parties at their house. Come on over. Well, I've never gone over. It just seems a little weird. There's some things out there that penicillin cannot cure. 578-1100 in the classic 216 area code is the phone number. Renee, you're on the air.
Hi.
Howdy.
How are you doing?
Just great.
Okay. I had two wacky ex-husbands, but the second one was the worst. When I divorced him, before he bankruptcied my house, so before he left the home, in the midsummer, he put 7 pounds of chicken in my drop ceiling.
Oh, really?
Raw chicken, before you cook it.
Yeah.
And he urinated in my registers.
Oh, that's nice. So it'd stink up the place good.
Well, yeah, but I didn't find the chicken till 4 days later in 90-degree weather, and so there was maggots and stench and everything.
I did that with some jumbo shrimp once. I didn't put it in the ceiling, but I took it up to a gas station and set it up on top of the pop machine. A buddy of mine worked there.
Yeah.
And about 2-3 days later, oh my goodness.
Well, this was pretty. It was pretty awful. I mean, chicken. I mean, the maggots.
Ooh. And he did that just to be mean and spiteful.
Well, yeah, but urinating in the registers.
Well, did you ever beat him up or anything? I mean, did he give you a reason?
I beat his truck up with a golf club.
Run that by again more slowly.
I know I talk fast. I'm Italian. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I beat his truck with a golf club. I took the windshield out.
With one of his golf clubs?
Yeah, well, it wasn't actually his. He didn't play golf. It was in his truck, so I just grabbed it and knocked the windshield out.
So he got back at you by chicken and urination?
Urination and chicken. No, this is after. I did it after he did the urination and the chicken.
Oh, I see. Well, I don't blame you there.
And he still doesn't leave me alone.
What does he want from you?
Oh, well, come on. What does he want?
Well, I mean, does he wants to get back together?
Well, no. Well, I'm involved with somebody else, so since I'm involved with somebody else, that's what he wants. He wants to, I guess, try again.
Well, sounds to me like you're best off just trying to avoid him.
Oh, well, definitely, because I'm relocating, so I'll be avoiding him real soon.
There you go. Stay away. Sounds dangerous.
He is dangerous. He's nuts. He's Western... Oh, maybe I shouldn't say that.
No, don't give any names out.
No, I was going to say the city, the whatever you call them, the city is, state, rather, West Virginia.
Yeah?
I don't know. Are they known to be wacky?
You mean people from West Virginia?
Yeah.
No, I got relatives from there.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Well, no, I mean, there's wackos everywhere, but I don't think people in West Virginia are any wackier than people from Cleveland.
Well, you can't put a Billiken and a Dago together, believe me.
Well, all right. Yeah, it sounds like a couple of hot-tempered people there. Oh, look. Mike the Repo Man. You've got tips on how to stay married.
Hey, Rick, how you doing?
Good. You're breaking up, too. Yeah, let me put you on hold. I'll try back, all right? Yeah, because you sound like you're talking in chocolate pudding. Harry, you're on the air.
Yeah, how you doing?
All right.
To give you a divorce story. I go to work one day, live in a house, 16 rooms. Come home that night, everything's gone. Fire mantles, toilets, sinks, fire inserts, everything. The whole house got it.
Wow. So, not just furniture and clothes. You mean everything?
Everything. Toilet holders. She left me a tub with...
well, she couldn't carry that.
Oh, no. She took 3 tubs.
Oh.
She left me one.
Wow, what a nut.
Oh, so you have to spray her to wash your hair?
Yeah.
On the tub?
Yeah.
She took that. So the classic move is I called the police. They say you can't do anything. You're married. So a week later, she comes back, takes more. So I finally thought, like you said before, you have to file papers. You have to file divorce papers to stop that from happening.
That's right.
So about 3 weeks, I have a restraining order on her on the house. So she calls me up. She goes, you mind if I come back to the house? I go, for what? You'll start taking my other stuff. No, you don't have anything left. I can't take anything more.
Well, thanks so much for informing me of that, right?
Yeah. So she took our kids' beds, his clothes. I had to get a court order to return his beds. So what a story that is. $30,000 later, I'm into a divorce attorney fighting all this.
Unbelievable.
And I'll tell you who has the power in these divorces. I don't know. Yours was short and sweet, are the judges. We've been trying to sell the house. How do you sell the house without toilets and everything? I've been replacing that. But the judge said we're dropping the price so much, and that's it. You have no power once you go to divorce court.
Well, yeah, I got off easy because mine was a disillusionment.
Oh, yeah. No, this is a full-blown fight. When what she wants, we were talking tonight, all I want is the furniture. No, she wants to split everything. She wants all the furniture.
Wow.
But
I know a guy going through a divorce that it's literally $200 an hour for the attorney.
Oh, mine is $250, and they talk and talk back and forth. She forced me into getting discoveries. Bank statements from 12 years ago. $6,000 just for discoveries. And my attorney goes, hey, this guy's not even going to use this. This stuff is 12 years old. It's no good. But it cost me $6,000 because the judge required it.
Yeah, see, this is why I'm so leery, and I appreciate you checking in, and I really feel badly for you there, Harry. That's something else. This is why I would be leery, being divorced once, to go into it again. Because if you got out clean once, well, that's a good thing, right? You get to keep the house. You get to keep your stuff. And she gets to keep her stuff. Okay, good. Take your stuff out of my house. But I have no desire to be giving my house to another woman. I'm just so glad, and I guess it really gets bad when there's kids involved, because if there's no kids involved, guess what? You never got to see her again. But if there's kids involved, you got to see her again and again and again and again and again. Right? Holidays, graduations, birthday parties. And you got to see that woman over and over again. Visitation. Then you got to give her money. Bad enough. And with Ohio being a no-fault state, it doesn't matter. You know that? The state of Ohio couldn't care less if your wife's cheating on you or not. Couldn't care less. Doesn't matter. No fault. Tank, talk to me.
Hey, Rick. How's it going?
All right.
Hey, like I was telling Ed, my first ex-wife, the reason we ended up getting divorced was she cheated on me behind my back while I was out of town with a 17-year-old kid from one of the local high schools.
Nice.
And she was in her early 20s at the time. I was in my middle 20s at the time, so, you know, that's all I could stand. I couldn't stand no more. But I tell you, once, because I had been faithful to her for the 8.5 years that we were married, didn't mess around, looked a little bit, but didn't touch nothing.
Right.
But once I found out from her best friend that she cheated on me, all's fair in love and war, pal.
Well, now, how old were you guys when you got married?
Let me think. She was 19, almost 20, and I was 23, 24 years old.
Yeah, because they say that people that marry quite young, usually it doesn't last.
Yeah, I've heard that. Like now, the girl I'm married to now, there's like 19 years between our ages.
And she's younger than you?
Oh, much younger than I am.
Yeah, see, somebody said to me once, they said, Rick, I know a place you can go to meet nice girls your age. I said, what the hell do I want to do that for?
Really?
I can meet plenty of 42-year-old women that have 2 kids and a ton of baggage, and they've been divorced once or twice, and it's usually the mental baggage that is the worst part.
That's right.
I mean,
who wants to deal with that? You got enough for your own, right?
That's right. You know, I met this woman in a bar, and then when she left, she gave me her phone number, and then she shook my hand, and she said, your hands are awfully cold. And I thought, okay. And then at some other point in the evening, I had ordered, say, a second beer. And she said, are you an alcoholic? And I thought, you got to be kidding me. You're already bitching at me, and we're not even going out. So I ain't calling you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the end of that. But, yeah, I think that's the surefire way to end a relationship with me, anyway, is cheat. That's it. Done. And I don't see how Kobe's wife's going to stay, because I would think that, I don't know, maybe she's a big dummy, or maybe she's smart enough to figure she'll stick around just for the cash. I would think that if she wanted to maximize the amount of cash that she could get out of him, that she should not have been sitting there holding his hand, that she should have been on the phone to an attorney that day she found out.
Well, she very well might have been. You know, there's people in the background at these things that coach both parties, saying, okay, you have to be the supportive wife because this is the NBA, and, you know, you have to be the loving husband, even though you got to admit you made a mistake. But for the cameras and the lights and everything, you two have got to play it off. You know, we don't know. 6-8 months down the line, she just very well may divorce him, or she might play the smart route and, you know, put up the wall and say, okay, pal, go make that money, sit here and spend it.
Yep, that's the truth, too. Yeah, that. There's something going on. I just got a prediction. I think it's war now.
Hello, chérie. All is fair in love and war, eh, darling?
Maybe she's just hanging around to play the supportive wife so that it looks like they're together still. Maybe there was something in that Nike contract that said, well, if you end up getting divorced because you cheated on your wife, then we're going to take away your money. So maybe she figures, well, to maximize the amount of money that I can get out of this man down the road, I'll sit there and I'll hold his hand. I'll hold his hand and rub his hand during the press conference, and I'll just keep saying to myself, $500 million. $500 million. $50 million. What could I buy with $50 million? I sit around and play the lottery and wonder what I could buy with $1 million. Mike, I'm back to you. Are you better now? Better now?
Can you hear me better now?
Good.
All right. How you been?
All right.
Hey, listen, a couple of things. I've been married 24 years, and I still introduce my wife to friends as my first wife. I always let them know my second wife is probably somewhere in the middle elementary school grade, maybe 4th or 5th grade right now. I'm just waiting for her to get out of school before I'll take her up on it. But
you know, it's funny you mentioned that, because I had said to my wife, I used to joke. I'd say, yeah, well, you're 24. Don't get any older. You start getting too old, and I'll have to trade you in on a younger model.
Yeah, there you go.
And we got divorced when she turned 25.
Instead of having a 44-year-old, I'll take on two 22-year-olds anytime.
That's right.
But, you know, I think one of the, it's not a secret, is that when we were dating, we used to fight. And I know it seems kind of strange, but my buddies would say, what the hell are you staying with her for? And, well, you know, we're in love, I guess, but we still would fight over things, and we learned how to fight and end the fight in a reasonable manner. I mean, not every fight ended up with a fist through the wall or, you know, with us giving up and leaving. And I think a lot of people just get lazy, and they don't understand that if you're going to stay with somebody, no one is the perfect person. And I think you'd get really bored with the, quote, perfect person who was just, you know, so happy to see you every time you come home and had everything just right. I mean, that would get tedious too, don't you think?
I guess. You know, my ex-wife and I, we never really fought. Maybe we should have. Maybe that would have spiced it up some. Maybe we should have fought more often.
I mean, I've been in, especially like an Italian household. You see them; they're sitting across the table and they're yelling at each other like they hate each other. But there's just so much emotion in the family. Hispanic households are the same way. They're very loud and boisterous, but they know how to fight. And one of the things that keeps you from, you know, if you've been married for a while, that keeps you from straying or cheating on your spouses, is it worth it? I mean, in my business, I've had the occasion where I've had a woman come out and say, you know, I could take care of a couple of things if you would leave me my car. That's not worth it to me, you know. There's so much you can lose by sticking your nose in the wrong spot, so to speak, that you've got to just draw back. You know, life is a series of choices. And
oh, I see. You're going there to repossess their car, and they offer up sex to try and get you to leave the car there.
Yes, and I just shudder to think that, you know, if you take them up on it, they could do the same thing this woman might be doing to Kobe Bryant. And there goes your business, there goes your family, there goes, you know, everything you worked for down the tubes for what? Besides that, I make enough on a car. If I needed to buy it, I guess I could buy it.
That's what I thought about Kobe. I thought, wouldn't it be easier if you want to get some strange to just call up an escort service and then pay them twice as much to say keep your mouth shut?
Well, you know, I was talking to my wife about this Kobe Bryant thing, and if I was the manager or the general manager of an NBA team, I would have a liaison for my guys, because let's face it, you got these young, mostly inner city guys. They've been introduced to millions of dollars and all the fame and fortune and everything. And if they need some strange, like you said, there should be a source for that. Not exactly officially, but a source for that of professional people supplied to them by the team that will not cause this sort of grief.
I have a question, and let me sneak in the triple Doppler forecast from TV3 meteorologist Betsy Kling. Tonight, some showers, thunderstorms possible. Mid-60s tomorrow, much of the same. Upper 70s, currently 76 degrees in Cleveland, 76. Was Babe Ruth married?
Yes.
Okay, because I read stories about how he'd be behind locked doors with a fifth of gin and 9 hookers before a game. Now, that was not widely reported at the time, just like we did not know that FDR had a mistress or whatever. But how did his wife deal with that? I mean, isn't it possible that, did she just not know?
No, she knew, and I remember reading it was like a biography, but it was an unofficial biography by one of his the players that played with him back in New York. That his wife knew and had actually sort of condoned it it was something that she said he needed to perform at the level he needed to perform at. And she didn't have a problem with it because he was making $200,000 a year when the average salary was 5 cents an hour. and she took care of, or he took care of his wife in a pretty well off.
Did you ever hear the story about Clara Bow?
No.
Clara Bow was a silent film actress who was at the top of her game back in the 20s and ended up going out with the talkies because her voice just was not, you know what I mean, it wasn't suitable. But she apparently used to like to take on the entire USC football team.
Hey.
And they put up a sign in the locker room, Clara Bow is off limits to all members of the USC football team. And I'm talking, you know, at one time. You know, all in a row, I guess. I think she died from being bow-legged.
Yeah, it sounds like that old Alex Harvey song.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember reading about Babe Ruth's wife. She just put up with it, and it was just a fact of her life. And then when he got ill, she was the only one left because, of course, all the the hookers and all the hangers-on and that they just kind of left him. But when he got sick towards the end of his career, they made amends with what had happened, and then he died.
Wow. All right, well, thanks for the input.
Hey, good luck on your next marriage.
Yeah.
Take care.
All right. Yeah, right. My next marriage. You know, I'm just quite happy being the guy that just goes out on dates once in a while. That's fine. And if there's maybe some stretches in between there, well, then maybe it just builds up more ink in your pen, so to speak. I don't know. Certainly not looking forward to the last marriage was not the way I wanted the wedding to go. I had a great idea. I thought, okay, here's the deal then. See, we got engaged, and then she immediately set a date. And it was less than a year later. And I kept thinking, well, just the idea of being engaged is kind of enough to say, we're together, you're mine, I'm not going to stray, that sort of thing. Instead of just living together, just shacking up and living in sin, which I guess we were anyway because we were not married. But I thought, well, why don't we just stay engaged for a couple of years, right? A couple of years and then see how it goes, and then have a nice little justice of the peace thing, or have the minister come over to the house and have the parents there or the family members there, and that's it. And then everybody takes off their fancy clothes and puts on cut-off shorts and a T-shirt, and then we have this huge wedding reception that instead of limiting it, which I could barely do anyway, to contain it to 250 people in a hall, you could have probably had it for, because there were a lot of people that said, how come I didn't get invited to your wedding, Rick? Aren't we friends? I said, geez, I just can't afford. I had to sell a car to my Mercury, my beautiful old Mercury I had to sell, just to try and pay for that. So you could have a party for 500 people, couldn't you? And have volleyball and a swimming pool and baked beans and potato salad and hot dogs and hamburgers and all that sort of thing. And probably have a party for double the amount of people, and everybody that wanted to go could have shown up, and no one had to dress up, but no, we had to go the classic route, which is very expensive. And selfishly, I just don't feel like putting out that kind of dough again. How about that? Is that a good enough reason? Well, money's a good enough reason that people get divorced every day. It's a good enough reason not to get married. Right, Rita?
That's right.
You know, money's a big sticking point a lot of times.
Well, I hear all these people talking about their terrible marriages where everyone was vindictive, and I had the complete opposite problem where my guy just shut down and wouldn't talk. And he wouldn't be mean. I mean, I would have liked it if we would have had some banter or, talking or yelling or nothing. He just sat there, wouldn't just shut down. And I think sometimes you're better off if you can, maybe fight, learn how to fight or something like your last caller said, because it was awful. I mean, it's like talking to a brick wall.
Well, I have to tell you that we did not argue. And I said, well, you'll argue with everyone else. This was the last time we ever civilly spoke to each other, aside from in front of an attorney.
Yeah.
I said, you'd argue with everyone else. Now, I was kind of a captive audience. She was giving me a ride someplace, and I needed that ride, and I didn't want her to dump me out of the car halfway there, so I wouldn't argue with her then either. And I says, you wouldn't argue with me. We wouldn't argue. I says, if there were issues that were so profound that we would end up being divorced, I don't understand why you would not argue with me about them. You'll argue with everyone else. And she said, well, because it's you. And I thought,
at least still talk to you.
I thought, what, because you love me too much? And she said, no, because you argue for a living. Rita, can I get you to hold on?
Sure, no problem.
All right, yeah, because I'm sure you had a second thought there. We got sidetracked. What are you going to do? And this is the kind of conversation the lines have been lit all night. You know, it's one of those things that leads from one thing to another. I think if 60% of us have been through it, I thought it was worthy of taking a night to discuss it, don't you? I'm Rick Gilmour, the divorced person's friend.
Rick Gilmour.
You know what we got to do? Toga party. You guys up for a toga party?
Toga! Toga! Toga!
On News Radio WTAM 1100.
Furious at myself. Disgusted at myself for making a mistake of adultery.
Well, you should be ashamed, Kobe. Yeah, it's interesting. I have one line open at 578-1100 in the classic 216 area code. I was thinking about that. Some people would say, oh, well, if you've never been married and then divorced, you cannot talk about it. Well, and that's not true. Because what's so interesting about the culture we live in and how many people are divorced, that it seems that if we were not married and divorced ourselves, we know so many other people that are, right, Rita? That,
oh, heavens, yes.
Kept you through the news there because we got sidetracked and we never even got to your point. But that'll happen when you talk about things like divorce, and I think that's in Kobe's future.
Yeah, probably so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it's important to know whether or not you're really made for marriage, because I was like 5 years into mine before I think I realized, and my ex-husband did too, that, you know, he was the kind of person that probably just shouldn't have gotten married, because he just wanted to kind of do what he wanted to do and sit and sit and sit and sit. And when you're married and after a couple years have a couple kids, you know, you need to have a plan and go and do things as a family, and, you know, that's what's really expected, and that's what you would want to do if you're married and have kids. And he was the kind of person that I believe was the perfect hermit. He just would have been great to be by himself. He was not a player. He didn't like to date. Since we've been divorced, he's not dated. He was just one of those people that, you know, thought he wanted to get married and have kids, and after halfway into it was like, oh, this is wrong for me. So
I think marriage on my end was wrong for both of us, and we also had an agreement ahead of time that we didn't want any kids.
Yeah.
Well, that all changed on her end.
Right.
And I reluctantly said, well, I guess that's okay. And I thought to myself, gee, I thought something like that you should make abundantly clear,
right,
and not change your mind.
Because once you have the kids, then you hurt them.
Well, we did not have any, but just the idea of all of a sudden now it was a good idea on her end that we should have a baby. And I said, we can barely afford to get by ourselves. Now, I know if you wait until you have enough money to have a baby, you'll never have one because there's never enough money.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that you should jump in feet first and try and actively make one when you know that you're in real financial straits, not just a little bit.
Right. And it's not like a job you can quit once they're there.
Right. You're stuck forever.
Right. And that's why you have to have a real sense of humor when you're breaking up things. I mean, I was a nice person and gave as much as I could. I wasn't one of these vindictive wives, because when you have kids, you don't, and especially when they're going through their own stuff, and, you know, I didn't want to have to send my kids to go and visit him in his nice new refrigerator box, you know. So when the person's not real motivated to go out there and make a living, you don't want, when there's kids involved, you don't want to be real vindictive, because sooner or later it's going to backfire on you, and, you know, your kids get the backlash of it. But
well, I heard a laundry list of things that was wrong with me. And I mean, I'm talking back to every argument that we ever had, ever. And I'm thinking, this woman can't remember to tie her shoes in the morning. How can she remember an argument we had 4 years before?
That she gave to you. It was on you.
Oh, everything was my fault. Everything was my fault. And I spoke with people and I said, well, okay, I'll take 50% of the blame. And they said, how about you take 20% of the blame? Because you didn't cheat on her, and the problems you did have could have been worked out. It's not like a trial separation. See, a lot of people do that. Especially, I'm going to put this on you and tell me whether I'm wrong. Especially women. If they break up with a guy, they've generally got somebody else already waiting in the wings for this sort of validation, this sort of feeling that they can say, well, see, he loves me more than you did.
Yeah.
They've got somebody already there.
More often than not, and I know my sister counterparts out there will probably hate to hear this, but I have a lot of girlfriends that call me for advice, and it seems like they all say, you know, I can't leave him unless I know that I'm secure with somebody else. Not a lot of women are like that. I didn't leave my marriage because of another guy. I left my marriage because I was being a single parent anyways, so I might as well just go out and, as you can imagine, there's other areas of the marriage when a person just sits there and doesn't have a lot of energy that are failing too. And I thought, gee, I could go out be a single parent and still have fun with other people. But a lot of women will have to have somebody waiting in the wings for that validation, just because I think that is there's a whole cultural, historical piece that goes along with that with women, that they feel like they have to have somebody. But
well, and I think money plays a lot into it, and a lot of people's divorces seemed to me that we were in financial straits, and I still am, but it was my money was our money, and her money was her money. Well, that's not the way I think it's supposed to work.
Well, and it can work completely the other way too. I mean, I think it's not always the man. It was the complete opposite in our family, because I was the ambitious one. But I think a lot of times somebody's being selfish with the money. The other person is giving because they're trying to save things, and then that's when it gets all skewed, and it's not healthy.
Yeah. Well, and I kind of like the idea that if I wake up and I decide at some point during the day that I want to take a nap or something, that it'll be quiet in the house.
Sure.
See, with my ex, it was if she's up, everybody's up.
No.
That kind of thing. And it's like, well, we kept different hours, so I didn't have to be up when she had to be up. I worked at night, and she did not. And it was just funny that way.
So you're saying it's about respect, too.
Well, and I think it went both ways. At least in my case. I can only speak from my experience, but it got to the point where she and I wouldn't argue, but I knew that she wanted to do what she wanted to do. She knew I wanted to do what I wanted to do. It didn't involve other people, but I would try to ask her if she'd want to be involved with things that I was interested in, which this was never an issue before. I don't know why it became an issue after we got married. But no, she didn't want to go to the beach land and see some band. And no, I didn't want to go bowling. And that's that. I've never bowled. I never liked bowling. Yeah, I've bowled a couple times. I'm not a regular bowler. I never found bowling interesting. Bowling's an excuse to drink beer. I don't need an excuse. So bowling's not part of the equation.
Yeah.
I mean, we both liked going out and some things, but she would go out and all of a sudden I'd find myself with my crowd. And this has happened a couple of times. It happened with my previous fiance. We had a party at the house years ago, the first time I was engaged, and it seemed like there was two groups of people in this house. There were like 30 of my friends on one side of the house and 30 of her friends on the other, and nobody really wanted to talk to each other.
Yeah.
And it's kind of sad that I don't know how two people can get together and then lead entirely separate lives as far as their interests, and I think sometimes people used to say to me, gee, Rick, it's amazing. You two can go out and she can dance with some other guy or whatever. You don't act jealous. You two have different interests, but you're in the same room, and yet you two go home together at night. Isn't that something? Yeah, I've never seen anything quite like it. Well, you know why you never saw anything quite like it? Because it eventually ended up not working.
It didn't work, right?
That's why you don't see that.
That's true.
So, and maybe I should have been the jealous type. I mean, you know what it is? This is what I wonder about, Rita. Sometimes it's the nice guys don't last. You got to be kind of a jerk once in a while.
A lot of people need that edge, but I think eventually you grow out of that because you
yeah, when you're 50?
Yeah.
I mean, at what point?
I don't know. I guess you really have to just know yourself, and it's a balance of give and take. But I know a lot of people, if they have a really nice guy, they can't appreciate him because they need that edge, and vice versa. If a nice girl, the guy needs somebody that he's got to always be worried about. Is she cheating? Is she, whatever. So.
I don't know. Thanks for the call.
No problem. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. A friend of mine said to me, Rick, you ought to be dating older women. He said, do you know that when you have sex with a woman that's in their 50s and they have sex with a younger man, he says, they thank you after sex. They thank you. And a lot of them strong-armed their husband out of all kinds of dough when they got divorced. Or maybe he up and died and left them all kinds of money. He says, you can go date some rich broad. And I thought, well, how do you put a price on 22? Think about that. I mean, there's some things money can't buy, and youth is one of them. Now, the problem is, the older you get, the less youthful exuberance you have. And maybe that plays in somehow, too. I don't know. Hoyle.
Hey, Gilly.
You're on the air.
Love your show.
Thank you.
I went to my class reunion a while back, and I had a very attractive woman come up to me and start to talk, and a little chit-chat and that. And as time went on, I was like, I'm sorry, I don't know who you are. So come to find out, when we were in high school, well, she was he.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, and I'm kind of an inquisitive person, so we started to talk a little bit, I said, you don't mind if I ask you about the process? And she said, no, not at all. So I asked her, about the breast implants and all that, and she said, yeah, I had that done, and it wasn't a big deal. So I said, has Mr. Happy been cut away? And she said, yeah, everything's cut away, and I got new plumbing. So I said, did you feel like a woman then? I said, well, no, not completely. I saw you had those hormone shots. I said, well, yeah, I had hormone shots, and I am pretty much a woman. But to tell you the truth, I didn't feel like a complete woman until they drilled that hole in my head and took out 90% of my brain. Then I felt like a woman.
There you go. Now Yep. I've heard that joke before, but I thought it was worth playing out there. I played along. Well, that's the thing I mentioned before when we talked about Springer. Would you vote for Jerry Springer? And I mentioned the Springer show where the dude that's dressed up like a lady comes out with the confession that she's going to tell her boyfriend that she's really a man. Well, I could tell a mile away that she was really a man. I suppose there's ones out there that it's tough to tell, but this one you could tell. But the Adam's apple and the bone structure, you could just tell from the bone structure. And then he comes out and he's flabbergasted that, oh my God, how could you actually be a man? And they've been dating, and then he has a confession that he's actually been seeing somebody else too. And he brings out another man. So who knew what about what? And of course it's probably all a setup, and it was a bunch of actors. But can you imagine? I mean, I've never really considered that would be a pitfall, a downfall of dating, that I would have to worry about. Gee, is that woman really a woman? So just look for the hole in the head. That's all you got to do, right? Dave, you're on the air.
Gilly, how the hell are you?
All right.
Hey, Kobe Bryant, it doesn't matter if he's guilty. He's going to get off anyway. He's got money. He's not going to miss a beat. He'll keep the wife, get the girls. That's the way society is. You got money, you get off. Look at O.J.
Well, yeah, and if you think about it, yeah, even if he did get divorced and had to give away half of his $100 million, he's got more coming.
Oh, yeah.
He's only 24. He's got years left to play.
Oh, yeah. He's never going to see any jail time. He'll get off on it. Before I go, can I ask you one question?
Sure.
Can I get the address to those orgies?
I don't know where they live now. I think they just recently moved.
All right. Thanks, Gilly.
All right. Yeah, I was at Edison's down in Tremont, and these people were in there, and they were dancing with the band was playing on a Saturday night, and they were dancing around, and it was surreal in a way. They were dancing like the dance scene from Pulp Fiction, the dance contest. And then they wanted to know if I wanted to come over to a little party at their house. They were having a week or two later. I don't remember exactly when. And I started asking people, and they said, well, don't you know what kind of a party that is? And I said, not really. They didn't get too much into it, not really explicitly or anything. And they said, well, it's an orgy, basically. They have a big cookout, and it goes along normally at some point. Then it changes. Everybody gets good and liquored up, and then they take off all their clothes and wriggle around like worms in the hot tub or something. I can't say as I've ever been to an orgy, and I can't say, like I said, if this were the 1960s, and the worst thing you're going to do is worry about catching syphilis or something like that. But even back then, they had the gift that keeps on giving, herpes. It just keeps coming around every once in a while to let you know it's still there. Like a pickup truck. The back end in the wintertime, it has nothing to do. It's unemployed, so it gets on a slippery surface, and it comes around to the front to try and look for work. Well, so there are things you could catch that you couldn't get rid of back then, too. Catch this. Triple Doppler forecast from TV3 meteorologist Betsy Kling. Tonight, showers, thunderstorms possible, mid-60s. Tomorrow, more of the same, upper 70s. It's 76 right now in Cleveland, 76. Let's look ahead, shall we? Sure. Tuesday, more of the same as possible with temperatures in the mid-70s. Looking up on Triple Doppler radar, see some bands of storms around Toledo. Now, those could affect us because it seems that most of the storms are heading in a direct west to east pattern without changing north and south. It just seems that's the way they're moving. There are some storms out over Lake Erie right above Cleveland right now, but it's up above Cleveland, so who cares if you're out on the lake? Get off the lake. 2 to 5 foot waves out there. You don't need to be on the lake. Is your name Zod? Hello? Hello?
Greetings, Gilly.
What's your first name?
Zod.
Zod.
Yes.
Oh, go ahead, Zod.
Well, first of all, I want to apologize for that remark I made the other day about your ex-wife.
I don't recall what the remark was.
Well, that's good, so I'm not going to bring it up.
Okay.
Cut me off. That's fine.
Right now?
Huh?
Cut you off right now?
No. I said the other day you cut me off.
Oh, I know what the remark you made was. It wasn't about my ex-wife. It was about me.
Well, okay. Well, anyway.
You made some allusion to the fact that you thought I was a homosexual or something. Wasn't that the comment?
No. Actually, no.
Well, that must have been some other Zod then.
No, I didn't say anything about you were a homosexual.
Well, what did you say about my ex?
A black man.
Oh, you're the guy that wanted to know if my ex-wife left me for a black man. No, that was my ex-fiance before that.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that you had been engaged more than once.
Oh, yeah. The first go-around, she left me for rock crystal cocaine and a black man. I don't know in what order.
Is that true?
That is true. And the second go-around, she left me for a hillbilly.
So I was right.
Well, the first go-around, I guess you were right.
So that's why you hate black people so much.
I'm looking at a black person, my friend Edmund, who runs my board in the other room, and I don't think I've ever given any indication that I hate black people.
Well, sure you do.
No, since when? Give me an example.
Since your wife left you for a black man.
That had nothing to do with it.
I mean, your fiancé, excuse me.
That had nothing to do with it. In fact, at the time, I had another board operator that was black as well, and it never became an issue what color he was until you mentioned it right now. The idea of another man...
That made you become a vegetarian?
No, that was somewhere in the middle. That was somewhere in between.
What do you do, like change up for every woman that you get engaged to or something?
Seems that way.
So...
I figured if the first one doesn't work, we may as well try something different. What, do you expect me to get the same kind of woman? I'm at least learning something from...
And I don't understand why you said you work at night. I mean, where do you work at night? I mean, you have another... you're on some other station I'm not aware of or something?
I wear many hats.
Well, I mean, you don't have to sell used cars at night.
No, I don't sell used cars. I wear many hats.
Okay, but what do you do at night?
It's none of your...
I'm being serious.
It's really none of your business.
So you're not on the air at night, are you?
I wear a rhinestone thong.
You know, I'm still upset at you because
And I dance around a pole and women stick dollar bills down the front of my pants.
I'm still upset at you because you made fun of Morton Downey Jr.
Oh, dear God, that's been 6 years ago.
Well, you made fun of him and about him having one lung, and then he died not long after that. That wasn't right.
Well, nobody knew he was going to die.
Well, you said
it takes 2 lungs to do this job.
You said that he hoped. You said to the audience that you hoped that he would die.
Oh, no. I never said that.
Sure you did.
No, I didn't.
I was on tape saying it.
Good. Play it for me. I'd love to hear it because I tape every one of my shows and archive them so I can go back and find that show. And
the first night you came on, I remember.
Yep, that was August 28th, 1997.
It was a Wednesday night, I remember.
It was a Thursday night.
Well, I was close.
Well, see, I'm closer. I know. I have a memory like a hawk.
You made fun of him.
Well, I might have made fun of him.
You said you said he had no business being back on the radio, and you made fun because he...
I said it takes 2 lungs to do this job, and he used to have to replay. It was a 4-hour program. He had
made fun of him because the last hour was always a pre-taped hour.
He had to replay the first hour.
And you didn't like the fact that he was doing the show from California or something like that.
I don't recall. I can tell you he was on for 43 days.
And it made fun of him every...
Get over it, Zod. It's been 6 years. You're as bad as an ex-wife.
You put the man in his grave, basically. I mean, that's pretty much... That's what sent them over the edge. I mean,
oh, yeah. Well, no. I don't think they... See, I had no hand in his quitting the job.
Well, he didn't quit. I'm sure you probably had some part in him getting fired.
No, not at all. In fact, we should get Ray Davis on the line. He knows all the details. We could get the program director on. He could tell the whole story. It just wasn't working out with Norm.
Get him on the line. I mean, I'm serious. Get him on the line.
All right, well, we'll see what we can do. Or maybe he's busy.
You're not going to put him on the line, are you?
I'll tell you what. If he calls, I'll put him on and I'll ask Ray. I'm not going to call him at home.
You make fun of a guy who's sick and dying of cancer.
We didn't. No. See, he was not dying of cancer at the time. He had already had 1 lung removed.
And you made fun of a man. Come on, why would you do that? I mean, you make fun of Imus also. You know, he has 1 lung, and you make fun of him every chance you get.
I don't think I've mentioned Imus and more than what? Ever? I don't recall ever mentioning Don Imus.
I remember every time you do it.
Oh, really? Do you get out of the house much?
No.
I didn't think so. You don't have a whole lot going. Do you have a woman or a hobby or model airplaning or anything?
Yes.
Slot cars?
all that.
Masturbation. I don't know. What do you do?
No.
I mean, Jesus. I got to go. It's one thing if you had any kind of proof to back something up. Well, you start calling me on what I said on the radio, and I'll tell you one thing. I remember it all. And if I don't remember it all, I've got it all on tape. Yeah, I said it takes 2 lungs to do this job. Then that's the truth. You got 1 lung, you're impaired, right? You're not up on the top of your game. You're impaired. You get all out of breath, and you got to play country records that you made that no one bought from 20 years before. You should have seen I've still got that. The Morton Downey Jr. fan club newsletter that called the program director at the time a fat little pig of a man and said I was a disgusting jerk. Yeah, everything's my fault. Yeah, that's right. Hey, they hired me. I didn't get anybody fired. They hired me. More of the program, more of your phone calls after these important words and coverage of what in the world's happening. I'm Rick Gilmour, I guess not that guy's friend that called before, but at least he's listening to the program. Right here on Cleveland's only news radio, WTAM 1100.
All right, The following material may not be suitable for all listeners. Listener discretion is advised.
The Lord has given unto you these 10 commandments.
Yeah, how about that? We break a few rules every once in a while, don't we? But only if they're unwritten. Just the commandments that are not written. Those are the only ones, the ones that Moses dropped.
The Rick Gilmour Show on News Radio WTAM 1100.
Open phones, 578-1100 in the classic 216 area code. Boy, a little of this, a little of that. Talking about Kobe Bryant. Wove it into some tales of woe. Divorce stories. Something else I want to put on the table as well this hour. Do you think it's enough now? Is it enough with the Dennis Kucinich routine? Betty Babushka and her pickled egg have always pulled the lever for Dennis. I've spoken with so many people in the Cleveland area. Well, you know, Dennis, he's a good neighborhood boy. He's a good neighborhood guy, that kind of thing. Well, how about he's a fall-away Catholic from St. John Cantius who's now for gay marriage? And put his peacenik stance aside. Now he's all for gay. Has he gone off the deep end or what? Has he gone Star Trek-y on us or what? I think the problem with Dennis was when he was mayor of the city of Cleveland, he had people like Bob Weissman to whisper in his ear and tell him what to say. I think he had people whispering in his ear all along and telling him what to say. And I think at some point, something happened, and I think he decided, well, I'm 57 now or whatever. I'm old enough. I don't need someone telling me what to say. Then he went off the freaking deep end. What's wrong with that man? Presidential hopeful. Right. I highly doubt that would ever happen. I don't even see him as a vice presidential hopeful. I just don't see that happening. Scott, you're on the air.
Yeah, hi, Rick. I just wanted to say I kind of got ticked by that last moron you spoke to.
Zod?
Yeah. You know, not that you need any validation, but you're the only reason I listen to radio anymore.
Well, I appreciate that.
I think you're the finest person on radio. And I've been listening to you since you came on, and you've never said any negative things, hurtful or spiteful things about Morton Downey or Don Imus.
No, I don't think I ever even mentioned Imus, other than he looks like an old fossil and probably should have retired several years ago because he's a shadow of his former self.
Yeah, well, preservation through chemical dependency.
I guess. I mean, you know, him and Gary D. were of the same era, and D's been dead since 95.
And they were running buddies.
So it's got to... Well, how old's that? Makes Imus about 67 or 8 now.
No, Imus, I think, is about 64.
Okay, so he was a little younger than Gary.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
No, I mean, just, you know, if you're listening, whatever your name is out there, just pull your head out of your butt and get the crap out of your ears. And just don't call in and say stupid stuff.
I thought it was interesting that apparently apparently he's loyal. He's been listening for 6 years. So I guess I don't care what he thinks as long as he keeps listening.
Yeah, really. I mean,
not everybody's going to like you.
I've only heard you take one good-natured shot at one person in that entire 6 years, and that was Drennan.
I don't remember what it was.
Well, you laughed like him. You got bingo.
Yeah, generally I take shots at politicians. Generally I take shots at people that really deserve them. I mean, after all, this is an entertainment medium. We do inform as well. But to keep your job, I think it helps to be somewhat entertaining as well. To keep people's attention when maybe there is no heavy-hitting news story. And, if somebody deserves to get... I mean, my issue with Dennis Kucinich. Betty Babushka and her pickled egg. It's the truth. Clevelanders, with their Rust Belt mentality, they always seem to pull the lever for the same people over and over and over again. It's like voting for George Voinovich. To me, how old is he? We've seen everything that we can expect out of him. We know where he's going to go, what he's going to do, what he's not going to do, that sort of thing.
Well, you know who's running against Kucinich, though, and I don't mean Norm Izzy.
Tom Coyne. Yeah, and he's got name recognition.
So you replace one professional politician with another.
That's my problem is, and even if Norm does not get elected, I mean, somebody should be in there in a lot of positions that are not career politicians across the board. We see these career politicians, and look at our country. I mean, we've got a lot of issues and the things to worry about, and yet we keep putting the same sort of people in that are career politicians. The founding fathers, you know what they said about that. You go serve the country, and that's what we had as original politicians were blacksmiths and livery owners, stable owners, that sort of thing.
Farmers and such, right.
And they'd go and serve the country, and then they'd go back out of the public eye and back to the private sector, and then continue on with their life, not live on the dole forever and ever and ever, which is essentially what you're doing. You're living on the public dole. But why would they want to give up such a prizy job? Because they got people putting money in their pockets saying, vote this way, vote that way. I just wonder if finally we get to the point where the voters of the city of Cleveland or the 10th district or whatever, the voters of the state of Ohio, do you get to the point where you say, and I'm using Dennis as an example, how nutty does he have to be before you say, okay, now I'm not going to vote for this fall-away Catholic from St. John Canchis who's now he's all for gay marriage? And how weird does he have to get, people? How weird does he have to get before you start saying, wow?
Any entity, be it a city, be it a state, be it a country, deserves the type of representation that it votes for. When you walk into that ballot box, in most cases, you do have a choice. And if you keep voting schmucks in, well, guess what? You're going to be represented by schmucks.
Well, yeah, it's like the computer, garbage in, garbage out.
No, exactly. And, I mean, that's why, as much as I've disagreed with him in the past, that's why Springer holds such potential promise to me. I mean, is he really that worse than what we have now?
Well, when you see Jerry Springer on his television show, what does he do at the end of the program? He gives you his final thought and chastises all these idiot morons that are on his show for their behavior.
And I mean, right now, we've got a society and a country right now that since May 1st, Halliburton's made $73 million in Iraq, Bechtel's made $45 million, and Harken Energy is going to sign on for $1 billion over the next 10 years.
And these are no-compete contracts.
No-compete contracts, all close friends of the president and vice president. So,
but they'll argue no one else is more qualified than those companies to do that work.
Right. And Trevisano will look good in a spandex bikini.
That, it's a good thing I didn't just eat.
Yes.
All right. Well, yeah, but it's the truth as far as these politicians go. It gets to be a lifelong career for them. And to me, it's a little disheartening because years and years ago, when I was, say, in my 20s, I really didn't pay much attention to politics and what really goes on behind the scenes. And I've spent a lot of time since then talking with a lot of people that do that sort of thing and reading myself. And you start finding out, geez, there's a lot of names. There's a lot of names you just take for granted that have been around for years that the more powerful they get as far as with the lobbyists and their own political power, the more stuff gets swept under the rug as well.
I mean, in California, they're going to recall Gray Davis right now because he supposedly lied about the state of the state's budget. Well, I think we have an even bigger liar down in Columbus.
Bob the Jellyfish Taft.
And I'd like to see somebody with enough guts start an effort to recall him.
Well, he's merely the puppet of King George V, George Voinovich, who I don't think needs to be reelected because I think that's his job, is to pull the strings behind the jellyfish.
Also wanted to let you know that guy who you spoke to before the last hour, he reminds me of the guy that you have on tape saying cigarettes were delicious and he liked to have somebody pee on his head.
Yeah, not the same guy, but
okay.
Cut from the same cloth.
Okay, I thought it sounded exactly like him, but...
No, I learned from working on stations where they do not screen calls. I learned to really be able to pick people's voices out, and I recognize his voice. I'm not certain from where, but anyway, that's neither here nor there, I guess.
No, I just wanted again to call and say I think you're doing wonderful work. You're the only one I listen to, and in a strange sort of way, and this is unrelated, but I hope Channel 3 brings back Eileen McShay, because I always enjoyed the jig you played whenever you did her weather.
Well, she's still there.
Okay, but...
You just like the music?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll look for it.
Okay.
All right.
Rick, take care. You're wonderful.
All right, thank you. Yeah. No, Edmund and I were talking in the break about, he says, you been here how long? I said, 6 years. He says, who did you get fired? I said, I didn't get anybody fired. I says, Morton Downey Jr., remember the big mouth? Remember he used to do that TV show with he had the Red Sox and he'd chain smoke, and he worked here for 43 days, and if you do the math, I don't know, I'd have to look at a calendar to see it was more than 43 days because they, I think, count, the weekend days don't count, so it was obviously more than a couple of months. And I've always been an avid talk radio listener, and I find it especially gratifying when I hear somebody like Mike Snyder say to me, oh, geez, he says, I spoke with Joe Tate. And he said, Tate said you're his favorite broadcaster.
Oh, yes.
Well, hey. And he said, Joe Tate doesn't listen to a whole lot of talk radio, I guess. So I guess you thought he sounded like this guy here?
The average human being blows bombs 13.3 times per day.
Yeah, see, not the same voice.
Cigarettes are delicious. I like it if you pee on my head and tell me it's raining, all right? Cigarettes are delicious. I love it if you pee on my head and tell me it's raining, okay?
I would really prefer a cup of cocoa.
I think this whole program is becoming out of order. Order! We need some order around here. Order! Bring this program back to order. Order! Frank, you're on the air.
Yeah, Rick, I talked to you last week. Really, you're doing a great job. My name's Frank. Remember last week you were about legalizing drugs?
Yeah, it's probably about time we legalize all drugs and just tax the hell out of them.
Yeah, I agree. But anyway, last week I got cut short. I didn't get to finish my statement. What I meant to say was, remember how I mentioned that the people want to kill the deers and kill the geese and abort babies, but yet we can't smoke a joint.
Oh, I see. That's where I cut you off because I thought you were going down the abortion path.
No, I didn't mean to sound like that. No, there's a joke going around town that says, "Did you hear the one about the pregnant lady walking into the abortion clinic smoking a joint, and she got arrested for smoking a joint?"
Yeah, the amount of time, and I really have not spent a whole. I probably should. I should get police officers to call anonymously.
You're right.
And see how they feel about it, because what they have to do, they're told what to do because it's the law.
That's right.
But I would think that the amount of trouble that people get into because of marijuana is mostly getting busted.
Well, I got a chance to talk to a SWAT team one time, and I said, what would you guys rather have on the freeway when you're out driving with your wife and kids on a Sunday afternoon? Drunks or people smoking pot? And it was hard to get it out of them, but they finally said, all right, smoking pot, I guess, is better than drinking and driving.
Well, if you want to look at it this way, too, if you want to look at the larger issue, do you realize that there are no homicide detectives on duty overnight in the city of Cleveland?
Really?
If there's a homicide, here the crime scene sits while the officers have to call the station and have the station call a homicide detective, get him out of bed, then he has to drive from his home to the station to pick up a car with all the stuff in the trunk to drive out to the crime scene. Now, what happens if it's raining? I mean, I can understand the cops can contain, the officers on the beat, they can contain the crime scene and try and keep people from walking through the blood, say. But can you control rain? Can you control it snowing? You know what I mean? I mean, it would be nice if you would be able to call a homicide detective and have them be at the station and they go out to the scene right away instead of all. And who And this was under Boss White's administration when this started, and Ladybug Jane Campbell, the queen of the flying hubcap, has not seemed to have corrected this.
Yeah.
It's the same way now, and I'm thinking, well, can't we find the money for that?
Well, what is it that you and I could do? I mean, you especially, you're powerful with the radio station. I mean, can't you get the word across to people who, like, smoke pot to, like, do something about it? You know, what can we do?
I don't know.
General public do.
You know that national program that Clear Channel airs called The Weekend? They have rotating hosts, and it airs across the country. Dozens of stations carry it. And I had John Hartman from Normal on, and people, and about 3 hours we talked about the legalization of marijuana, and people would come up to me and say, did you get in trouble for that? And in fact, someone emailed me and said that program is now, someone stole it from Clear Channel, and it's up on Audio Galaxy or something like that. They said it's on the internet forever. And then I said, I didn't get in any trouble for that. And you got to consider the fact that most of the people that are executives now in their 40s and 50s smoked pot at one point in their life, and they know it's relatively harmless.
I guess it's, from what I understand, it's the largest cash crop in the United States. I mean, somebody's smoking it.
Well, you don't need to make moonshine anymore. You can buy booze, so why would you now? They make Kentucky Two-Toke.
Yeah. Like I say, I just wish that people, like in your powerful radio, you know, you can get the word across, and people like yourselves can get the word across. But I don't know why people aren't making a movement to, keep people out of jail for that kind of stuff. It's ridiculous. You know, a kid walking around with a bowl in his pocket goes to jail and gets a fine. Come on, that's ridiculous.
Frank, think of it this way. Because of the power of this radio station, I had a reporter tell me about a week after I was bad-mouthing Dennis the Boy Menace Kucinich, that Dennis was very upset about it, and the next time he saw him, he said, oh, yeah, right, I just do this for the money, or something, whatever comment it was I made. So I think that the most I can do is simply to bring up issues and speak about them, because they're listening. They're out there listening. If you listen to talk radio, obviously. You called here.
Yeah, I'd like to listen to you when I get a chance.
Okay, so...
It's really interesting.
Okay, here it is Sunday night. If you were not listening to me, what other riveting talk radio show in the city of Cleveland that deals with local issues as well as national ones could you listen to?
I don't think there's any, is there?
I don't think so. Maybe there should be. Maybe I should have competition. Competition's good. I believe in competition, and I believe I would bury them.
Well, you're doing a good job. I mean, I don't know why other people aren't calling in, because millions of people do these things, and they get in trouble for it.
Well, we just brought it up. I mean, it's not like I hammered it. I mean, usually you want to get all the phone lines lit all night. I could have hammered Kobe Bryant again and had all the lines going just about Kobe, whereas I like open phones once in a while. It's nice to go any direction you'd like to.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, listen, I'm going to get off the phone and let you continue on with your show. Like I say, you're doing a great job. Keep up the good work.
All right, thanks, Frank. Mona, you're on the big one.
Yeah. All right. Listen,
hello, Mona, you're listening to your radio. Turn your radio down. I'll just hang up on you. No chance there? Oh, you're just a dummy. Just a big dummy, and you don't get it. What I'm really surprised is that I did not get more phone calls from Betty Babushka and her pickled egg about people like Dennis. How far out do politicians have to go? How far away from the mainstream does someone have to drift before you say, okay, that's it, that's enough. It's time to change gears. This ain't the first time that I've seen signs that said anyone but Dennis. It ain't the first time. I mean, at what point do you look at a politician? And Mona, apparently, who couldn't figure out how to listen to the phone and not the radio, wanted to know if I liked any politicians. Yeah, tell you the God's honest truth, I liked Jim Traficant. Did I like his stylish wig? No. But I liked Jim Traficant because he told it like it is.
I don't know, maybe I'll let her find me in contempt and put me in jail. You know, life is a daring adventure or nothing. Wasn't Helen Keller said that?
No, Helen Keller said, and then someone left a plunger in the toilet and all hell broke loose. Right, Jim?
I will show up in court. I will defend myself. And there's going to be a Donnybrook in Cleveland, Ohio, because I believe the American people have to take their government back. I love the Congress and elected officials, but quite frankly, the Congress doesn't govern anymore. They don't.
No, they're too busy worrying about gay marriage or something like that.
I have specific tape recordings when it's all over that if they don't put me in jail, someone's going to go to jail.
Wow. See, that's the kind of guy that I like. I like a guy who's not afraid of a bit of a fight.
Believe me, this is one hell of a fight.
And?
You'll have to talk with the judge. I did talk with the judge about it. Donnybrook means there's going to be a hell of a legal fight, and I told her about it. And that's exactly what's going to happen in her court. There's going to be a hell of a legal fight. So she took it the wrong way. I said, I'm sorry for that, but there will be a legal Donnybrook up in there.
We need more politicians like Jim Trafficant.
They're either going to put me in jail or their asses going to jail. One way or the other.
What do you think about that?
I'm going to get in their face.
Yeah, and you did, and you lost.
There's going to be a Donnybrook in Cleveland, Ohio.
Yep. Well, there was, and you lost. And the career politician, in my mind, steals with both hands. At least Jim Trafficant only stole with one hand. When he had somebody shoveling crap on his horse farm. Or somebody repaved his driveway. Now, let's start talking about the politicians that steal millions and millions and millions of dollars. What was the most? The most that they could claim that Trafficant took was 80 grand. Wasn't it? 80 grand? Yeah, I think he took maybe 80 grand, something like that. And they'll say, yeah, well, he was a hillbilly. He was a football hero in Mahoning County, and that's the only reason why he got elected, and he was sheriff and all that. And, well, maybe he did get a little tiny bit funny with a little tiny bit of money. I had someone tell me, if you say the real reason why Trafficant's in jail, you'll lose your job. And they told me what their opinion is, the real reason why Trafficant's in jail, and I thought, well, if that's the way you feel, if you think I said that and I lose my job, then I'm not going to say it, because I like my job. Drea, you're on the air.
Hi, Rick. How are you?
Great. How you doing?
Long time no see.
Yeah. Well, you're not seeing me now.
No,
unless you're looking at the webcam at WTAM.com.
Oh, then I have to run to my computer, but I'm too lazy.
Okay. What's on your mind?
Nothing. I just called to say hello, and I enjoy your show, and I just, I don't know. You don't have a schedule on when you're viewing.
Well, I'm on all over the place.
Yeah.
Do you have an opinion at all on Dennis Kucinich?
I don't really care for this man.
Well, it just seems to me that he keeps getting farther and farther out there, and like I say, conversely, when you have a candidate like King George V, I think we pretty much have seen everything that he's going to do. I don't think there's going to be any surprises. I don't think it's going to change the world if we reelect him.
Kucinich has always been, I don't know, he's always been one way on his way, and it's always been really kind of a liberal way, and...
Well, he's gotten way more liberal now.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well...
But that doesn't mean it's bad. It doesn't mean it's good. It doesn't mean anything. It just means that's the way he is.
Well, he's a nut.
Well, but... All right, so that's the way you think, you know? I mean, I don't know.
I've always thought he was a nut. I thought back on remember the stories about him, and he would eat breakfast at Tony's Diner, and the story came out that someone put a hit out on him?
Yeah.
Well, I got to run.
All right.
All right, talk to you later there. But who would waste good bullets on Dennis Kucinich? You really think somebody put a head on him? Oh, come on. All you got to do with politicians like him is just give them a coil of rope. Make sure, it's long enough and they'll hang themselves. When they start getting too wacky, they start getting out of my realm. I'm Rick Gilmour, the thinking man's friend. More of the program after these important words and coverage of what in the world's happening on Cleveland's only news radio, WTAM 1100.
Rick Gilmour.
Rick Gilmour.
I'm the kind of guy that used to I'd take a pair of pliers and heat up a quarter and throw it to a homeless person.
That's funny. Now, that is funny.
On News Radio WTAM 1100.
Well, that was in my misspent youth. Little white stripes. All this sound comes out of two people. Jack and Meg, and no one knows whether they're ex-wife and ex-husband or brother and sister or no relation whatsoever, and I guess as long as they can get people to keep talking about them. They put together this record for something like $10,000 themselves. Because I guess big record companies don't want to free up a lot of dough anymore, you know, and they're tired of paying these overpaid Bruce Springsteen types. Crank it up a little there, Edmonds. That's one dude on a guitar and the chick on the drums. Pretty big sound out of two people, huh? I'm a fan. Maybe I'll go see him if they end up in town sometime. This is interesting. For the first time ever, a video game maker's joining forces with a restaurant chain to give away games. Well, it wouldn't be the first time that toy companies got together with restaurant chains. I think that's the biggest ploy going. We're giving away toys from the latest movie, and you can only get them in boxes of Brays, or you can only get them at McBurgers. And so all that does is parents are probably pulling their hair out. Oh, dear God, now we got to eat at McBurgers, or whatever the chain is, because the kids just got to have the toys, or they'll drive me nuts, which could be more detrimental to my heart than the cholesterol in the food. Sega games are available through Thursday in McDonald's Happy Meals. 6 games in all. That means you have to eat there for almost a week. Featuring Sonic the Hedgehog and his friends. Not exactly the same as the Sonic games you can get at electronic stores. They're handhelds, much smaller. Rich Briggs said with Sega said they'll boil down the core essence of the game and deliver the game in a small handheld model. Gee, just like what companies do with real live hamburgers. Briggs said it's a chance for potential new customers to try out Sega games. They're not recommended for children under 3, and neither is the food, I guess. I don't know. Tony, you're on the air.
Hello?
Hi, it's your turn.
No, sorry about that.
That's all right.
You guys have been talking about, people buying and selling and smoking marijuana all night.
Actually, I brought it up. I think a caller brought it up once. Other than that, all night's been mostly other stuff. Mm-hmm.
That just happened to be the part that I caught before I had to jump out of the car.
Okay.
It's not the cops that want to be doing this. You have people that are making these laws.
Right.
And we're bound to follow these laws.
Right.
Because, you don't have a real choice. You take an oath, and the oath says you're going to do it. All they make these laws for are money, because I'm going to tell you, drunks who get out here and they drink for 4 or 5, 6 hours, they mix these, I don't know, whatever alcohol you want to pick, they mix it with 4 other kinds, then they get violent. I've never seen anybody smoking marijuana that's been violent.
Well, that's right. You'd never see someone smoke a joint and then beat somebody over the head with a pool stick. They're too busy laughing at the colored balls on the table.
Exactly. Or they want to eat.
Yeah.
90% of the people that get busted for marijuana use are A, kids under the age of 18, or B, which are your middle-aged, 24, not even middle-aged, but 24 to 28-year-olds, males who are married, believe it or not, or on their way home from work or whatever. They do it as a stress relaxer. They don't do it to go out here and get their, totally knocked out of their minds so they can't drive. Now, granted, marijuana does, it relaxes you so your reaction time is slower. But it's not as exaggerated as when you drink alcohol. Okay? You don't see people on the news, he smoked a joint, went out and killed a whole family of people because he rear-ended them. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it ain't nowhere near as common.
Right. I'm right with you. The only problem they might have is if they're drinking and smoking.
Well, then that just makes matters worse.
Yeah, that just makes it. And from my experience from years ago was that if say you had 5 beers and you smoked some weed, now it's like you had 12 beers.
Exactly.
I mean, it really does exaggerate sort of that end of it.
But, I've dealt with people who smoke marijuana, and I deal with people who drink every single night. And the ones that drink tend to be more violent. They're more obnoxious. They don't want to follow commands or directions, and they just give problems,
Well, you're right. I'm right with you. I agree 100%. And of course, the immediate public, who's the first person that the public has to deal with is the police officer. Now, they did not make the laws. They're just there to enforce the laws. You have to go after the legislators and say, what are we doing wasting our time? The cops could be out there busting people for selling crack or God knows what.
Exactly, but you know what the legislature's looking at?
Money?
The money. So all it is money. You got to write tickets to people that do this. You arrest them, they get fined in court. They got to pay court costs. They got to take special programs so that they can get it off their record. The federal government, if you get convicted of even marijuana use now, the federal government will not give you a student loan to go to college.
Wow. Looks like Bill Clinton would have been paying his own way nowadays.
Yeah, he would have.
Yeah.
But see, I mean, that's all it is. It's money.
Well, that's a shame. All. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Appreciate the phone call.
Not a problem. You have a nice evening.
You too. Be careful. Daryl.
Hold on. Hold on to this blunt there.
William.
Hello?
Hi.
Rich, I'd like to read a letter to you.
Oh, I don't know about that. That sounds lengthy. David, you're on the air.
Hey, Rick, how are you?
Great.
Hey, I can't believe you just brought up the new McDonald's Happy Meal toys.
Why? Because now you're going to have to go out and get them?
No, my family and I just spent a couple days in Pennsylvania, and unfortunately, my kids each had 3 Happy Meals and got 3 of those games.
It seems to me that it's a ploy because they know that if kids see it on TV, they'll drive you absolutely nuts. Now, don't get me wrong. I enjoy eating at McDonald's occasionally, and I don't eat there every day, obviously.
It was just because that's what was on the turnpike, and that's the reason for my call, but it's much better than a plastic piece of crap toy. I mean, it actually entertained them for a while.
Well, all right, though. There you go.
So, I mean, it was better than a piece of junk. But my question is, my 6-year-old asked me on the way home, I think after our 6th stop at the turnpike, Daddy, why do we have to pay to drive on this road? And you know what? I don't know what the answer is.
Well, originally, you were paying to build the road and maintain it. And now, I guess, strictly, you're paying to maintain it.
And I jokingly said as we went to the last one, I said, people will come, Ray, they'll just hand over money, and if we put these little boots up, they'll just keep paying. And I thought it was because they're supposed to be less traveled, so you paid. But if you've driven on a turnpike lately, they're certainly not less traveled.
No, they're not, but I will give you this. I have driven on the turnpike lately, and I don't mind paying if the road's in great shape. Mm-hmm. But I don't like paying, say, when I'm going from, Route 10 to Amherst.
Well, there were stretches coming from there and here where there was one lane that was almost literally, it was undrivable. But it was just funny that a 6-year-old said, why do we have to pay to drive on these roads? I'm like, I don't know. I just keep giving them money.
You know what we've got to do? We've got to somehow take a lesson from West Virginia. You been on the roads in West Virginia? They're beautiful. They're beautiful.
But they're a boatload to drive through there.
Oh, well, they're tough to drive because it's in the mountains, but the roads are beautiful. And I'll say one good thing about Robert Byrd. Senator Byrd knows how to bring home the pork to the state of West Virginia, which is what a politician's job should be, is to bring home the pork, bring home the sausage, and spread it around on the roads out there and that sort of thing. And I mean, it seems to be working there. We make West Virginia jokes. I think they're doing better off than the state of Ohio is.
And speaking of politicians, if Kucinich